Welcome to That Entrepreneur Life, a podcast about entrepreneurship that takes you from idea to launch and beyond. Each week, your hosts, Andrew Lees and Clint McPherson, discuss different business topics aimed at adding value to any entrepreneur's journey.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of That Entrepreneur Life. I'm Andrew Lees, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Clint McPherson. I'm excited to be here with you for another episode of That Entrepreneur Life. With that said, I'm going to kick it back over to introduce our special guest, Shā Sparks.
Thanks, brother. Being an overcomer of abuse. This is Shā Sparks I'm talking about. Addiction, depression, anger, low self-worth, being a bully and being bullied. Shā Sparks has taken her own personal traumatic experience and transformed her life into a treasure. Growing up with a father who was drafted in the Army to serve in Korea, she has inherited his "I don't have a choice" mindset. Now she uses that determination to propel others to make fearless choices for their own success. And as a speaker, a coach, author, and podcast host, she empowers other trauma survivors to invest in themselves by peeling away the layers so they can heal. Then she guides them to break through fear by transforming their own trauma into treasure in order to find their true purpose in life. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh, thank you for having me. That sounds so way different when other people read it. So it sounded awesome. Like, who is that person?
Yeah, an awesome individual. That's who it is. So I didn't go into your motto because that, like we talked offline, that's a question that we have for you. It's a special question to me because that motto that you actually carry with you or say, obviously means something. And that's the first thing I saw on your website. So that's the question we're going to get to later in the episode, but it's powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, Shā, you interviewed with Clint earlier in the week on your podcast, which was very cool. And I'm excited to check that out, when that drops. And, our listeners will be as well, too, for sure. And he was talking about how you were talking about what it means to invest in people. And as I'm reading through your bio and as, Clint introduced you, I'm very interested in things that you've had to overcome as a person and as an entrepreneur. Can you talk a little bit about what it means to you to invest in people, what investing in people means to you?
Nice. You threw my question back on me. I love it. So funny, because I was thinking about this just a couple of days ago, I think right after I interviewed Clint. So let's take it from an entrepreneur standpoint and think about how you're creating company culture for yourself. Are you, as the leader, are you investing in your staff? Are you investing in their overall success and what that looks like? So for an example, one of the people that I had on my podcast, he had went and surveyed all of his staff to figure out what it is that they were really hoping to get out of their job. Like, yeah, money is one, but what about fulfillment? What about community? What about connection? What about building loyalty, not only with each other, but also with the company, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's really about, he had to invest in himself first and ask the hard questions of, well, what does it look like to be a leader and how do I want to lead? And then that, just by looking into that, overflowed onto his entire company.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Understanding what the people that you're working with and who work for you, what they want and need, I think really, and being able to ask those questions makes you a much better leader and really allows you to figure out, you definitely have to invest in your resources, who are your people, and that'll pay back to everybody. Right. Yeah. So I really like that.
Yeah, without a doubt. Shā, I got one for you. So as a speaker, right, a coach, an author, I haven't actually checked out your books, but I was on your website and I'm definitely going to have to do that for sure. What is your favorite thing about being an entrepreneur?
Oh, that is a good question. Honestly, my favorite thing about being an entrepreneur is having one person come up to me, whether it's after a speaking engagement or even a Facebook Live that I've done or a podcast that they've heard. And they said, wow, what you said really like hit me. It really resonated with me. It just hit me in such a way that I am now going to go out and take charge and shift and change and have a different conversation. Whatever that looks like, whatever I said really sparked something in them to be able to now empower them to go out and shift their own life.
Oh, that's chills right there. Just hearing you say that. It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's must be such a fulfilling thing, getting that kind of feedback. That's really cool. So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, talk about you getting chills. So I get tears, like, wow, I touched one person and now they're going to go and affect, or maybe it's infect, We're in a contagious time right now, right? So empowerment is also contagious. So they literally can go out and be contagious in their empowerment, right? And empower others.
Right. So it can grow geometrically. And when you're putting good things out there, you want those, anything, good things and bad things can obviously grow quickly. So you want to put as much good out there and you feel really good when you are able to change one person's life and know that it's that, the principles that they've gained from you, they're going to be able to help other people as well. That's really cool.
Definitely powerful. Yeah. And with you saying that, and like you said, just helping one person. I was actually on an interview the other day with somebody, Tuesday, not really an interview, but more of like I guess you can call it a coaching session on his end. And he's actually going to be on the show next week, with us interviewing him, Sebastian Hernandez. So I was talking to him and the funny thing is like, he was like, man, how did you hear about me and all this stuff? And I was like, telling him like when I was going through a challenging time of my life, right? Switching from the military to the civilian life and figuring out what I was going to do. Like I was stuck in the mud for a little while. And I was telling him like, just this Facebook video that I came across real late at night, one night, something caught me or called me to it. And I was watching him talk to another guy, right? Another guy interviewing him. And then I was like, man, this guy seems like very genuine, right? Seems like he really wants to help people, which I can see that basically that's you, right? And so just getting that and talking to him about that, he was like, man, he was just sitting there. He was like, I really appreciate these words that you're saying. He's like, it means so much to me, just even when it's one person that says that to you, right? Like he was almost tearing up hearing what I was saying about how it impacted me and how it really kind of at the time changed the course and direction I was on.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. Love it.
That's awesome. So we have, that's your, what you like the most about being an entrepreneur. And what's been the most difficult thing about being an entrepreneur? Maybe multiple things.
Yeah. I'm thinking, which one do I pick?
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's usually not just one.
Yeah. So one of the things I know about, not only about myself, but of other entrepreneurs that I've spoken with, is making sales. And because especially when you come from a purpose-driven, heart-centered business, you want to have everybody, you want help everybody, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but in the end of it, at the end of the day, we all have to monetize somehow. We all have to make that profit somehow. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the hardest thing for me, is being able to really know that there are people that could use exactly what I have to offer, and maybe they only are able to spend, their budget is completely minimum. And right. So I set aside space to do that, and let them go, okay, well, let's look at your budget and tell me what you can come up with, and we will figure out a plan or something to help you with. So for me, it's about not doing a one size fits all. It's really about making exceptions because not everybody fits to the same rule.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And not just denying access to people who can't, can't afford it, especially with what you do. That's really, that's really generous and really great because, there are so many people who need to hear, a positive message and need to be uplifted. And, if they can pay for it, that's great. You need to pay your bills. And, you need to profit from it too, in some way. Right. So,
Right.
But yeah, I think that's a really honest answer. And sometimes, a lot of times when we're talking to other entrepreneurs, they're talking about like logistical things that are their main problem, but I think that's when it all comes down to it. I think that would be I think getting sales would be my answer too, because it's just honestly, you need, how do you get enough sales to just, first of all, be a healthy, sustainable business. And if you can do that, then you can provide more value for people too. Then you can really help people even more, because it doesn't do anybody any justice if you're stressed all the time about how you're going to keep your business going.
Mm-hmm.
And then because then that spills over into the work that you're doing, and people feel that, and your value starts to, kind of erode away. So yeah. That's good. It's really important.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. That's truth, right? Because when you look at it, even though we value what we do, right? It's not always, and even if you put a price tag on it, it's not always the same value that somebody else sees from it, right? But I think the value that you add and the value that you bring every day, you shouldn't allow somebody to, I think the money comes with that value you bring, right? Mm-hmm. So the more you continue to put out into the world, the more you continue to build that trust with individuals. Then when you have your product, right? I mean, it's no brainer. I'm going to invest in Shay, right? Because she's built that trust through whatever free means, whether it's a podcast that you have out in the world, whether it's, written content in a blog, whether it's this or that. But, when you come out with your book, it's like, you're damn right, I'm going to buy it, because she added a ton of value and she basically changed my perception in life. I think that right there is a big, like I said, and like Andrew said, I mean, sales is a huge thing for all of us, I think.
Well, and I think that's where we're lucky in that regards as entrepreneurs, that we don't have that $1 million business header behind us, right? Mm. We don't have that where we can literally invest in the person, right? So if there's that one person that's kind of like, well, I really want to, but I just can't afford it, you can invest in them. Exactly what you said, Clint, by giving them value, right? And then when the next thing comes out, they might not even still be able in a position to quote unquote buy it. However, they're probably going to share it because they have been so connected with you. You've built that trust, you've built that relationship, you've built that connection. And then they're going to be like a super fan, right? Pat Flynn talks about super fans, right? Yeah. They're just going to promote you like crazy because they know how much their life shifted because of being a part of your world, a part of your culture. So yeah, love it. Thank you.
That's very true. Yeah. There's been, I sell some products online and physical products, and there's times when I've actually lost money, on sales because something gets screwed up and there's a delay in shipping, or there's, the customer has, some customers are very patient and others aren't, and so we try and, deal with every single customer, as they come and help them out as much as we can. And so in some cases, there's been instances where we could kind of go back and kind of be a jerk and just be like, no, this is what it is. We can't be flexible at all to make $10. And instead we, but instead we lose money, we just, we go back and we try and be as nice as possible. We try and be as reasonable as possible and accommodating. And knowing that, well, first of all, the most important thing is taking care of that customer. And obviously, you know, that kind of thing can't happen all the time, right? But in certain circumstances, it makes sense to just, hey, you might have to break even, lose a little bit of money, knowing that they're going to be happy, and then maybe they're going to share that experience with somebody else. You know, they might say, hey, I was, you know, I had a difficult time with my order, but they made it, they went above and beyond and just made it an amazing experience. Mm-hmm. And I would definitely buy another product for them, and you should really check them out. Next thing you know, we might have 4 new customers where we're making money, and we're definitely then making up that whatever we lost. So yeah, I think that's really important.
Right. I mean, that's how Zappos and Amazon really built theirs, right? They just were transparent, like, this is what's going on. We can't get the product ourselves in order to pass it on to you. So here's what we can do, and we can make it up in, you know, other ways. So
exactly.
That's awesome that you're doing that. Again, you're investing in that person, right? Just by being transparent.
Exactly. Yeah. Customer service is so important. And especially these days, which is amazing sometimes. I always think that at some point we're going to get to the point where, like, more and more companies are better at customer service, but it doesn't seem like that. Like, I keep thinking that all these, you know, big companies are going to catch up, because there are good examples out there, like GoDaddy, who's got amazing customer service.
Yeah.
There's, I actually have, completely unrelated to GoDaddy, but I have USAA insurance, and I've got family members who are in the military, and it's amazing. Like, you get on the phone with them immediately. They handle whatever you need right away. I mean, it's amazing. And you just think, like, oh man, everybody should be like this. It's so easy, but it just doesn't happen. You know, there's still the companies who are really good at investing in customers and helping them out. They're kind of few and far between. So if you can capitalize on that, if you can just be good at customer service, you can just absolutely kill it.
Well, and you've hit the nail on the head. Customer service is a lost art. Right?
It is.
And I mean, just now going through, you know, the situation that we're in now, even going to the grocery store, and I am thanking people, like, profusely, like, thank you for being here. Thank you for working. Yeah. And they're like they're so shocked. They've never even been told that before. And so to just really, again, you just pour back into, you know, the people that are around you. Right. And especially in customer service, if you know, that's where I come from. I have a license in cosmetology. I have a salon. It's all about customer service. We always say it's the 80-20 rule, right? It's 80% how you treat the customer. It's 20% about the product or you, the service provider. Same thing goes in every company.
Sure. Yeah. You can take a decent product and put amazing customer service on it, and people are going to remember that for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
Love it. So Shay, on your website, we're going to circle back around to the motto I mentioned earlier in the episode, right? Didn't really say what it was, but we're going to get right into it. On your website, you know, just searching around, looking, preparing for the show as well. And I checked your site out before, but it inspires me every time I see it, right? Because it's the first thing you see on your website is that quote. You see your face, but the color, that's, you know, the contrast with the white background with you down there in black and white, and then the color just popping off the screen, but it draws you to that quote and it pulls you in, right? And it's just inspiring. It states the following. I'm going to read it. When we share our lessons learned of overcoming obstacles, we ignite a tiny spark of hope, love, connection, and community in other people. And when we ignite that spark, the whole world lights up. So when I read that, I just got chill bumps. Goosebumps. I mean, it just, every time I read it on your website, and just not reading it out loud, but just reading it in my head, I get the same thing, the goosebumps. And to me, that quote is just a perfect example, and not only for individuals, but for people as entrepreneurs. And I believe it really helps me as a person understand you a lot quicker, tells you a story of how fearless, Miss Fearless Communicator, you are as a communicator, right? And so with that said, how important are those words for you personally? And when did you connect those dots?
Great question. And when you read it, I started to tear up because it's so I don't have anybody else read it back to me.
Yeah.
It's always in my head. So I feel like it's stuck.
Yeah.
It's stuck on play. So,
Loop.
yeah. How did I come about that? Okay. So I'll tell you my personal life. I was in an abusive relationship for a long time. And when I got out of it, I immediately started Christian counseling, and I started reading books and investing in myself and peeling away the layers of the onion that we all are, right?
Mm.
And I started to heal. And when I started to heal, a couple of things happened. One, I started to be in the salon, and my clients would ask me, so what's been going on? I'm like, oh, let me tell you what I learned about myself. And I was just being transparent, which before when I was in that accident, I would never speak about before when I was in that relationship, I would never speak about what I was going through. I was completely emotionally unavailable and unwilling to share anything personal about myself. So now I'm having this, people who have known me for like 10, 15 years are like hearing things that they'd never heard before about myself. So I'm like, well, so what I learned is that I have a hard time being vulnerable. And they're like, wow. I'm like, tell me more. And I'm like, so it's hard for me to tell you how I feel. I came from a sarcasm background. My family was sarcastic. My ex was sarcastic. So I'm going to dress my anger up in, something funny, dress it up in comedy, right? What have I heard? Sarcasm is anger in a clown suit.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. So I'm not really going to tell you what's going on. So I'm not going to be vulnerable and really tell you how I feel and what is really happening over here. So I'm going to go around it, and then I'm going to be mad because I didn't really get my needs met or my point across, right? And they were like, wow. So then they went out, they started shifting how they talked, and they went out and started no longer being sarcastic to their spouse, to their family, to their company, to their coworkers. And then it shifted their relationship. And then they would come back 4 to 6 weeks later for their next haircut. And they were like, Shay, you're never going to believe I took what you said and I went and did it. And it was like such a huge shift for me. Like, wow. And I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And during this process of me, peeling away the layers of healing, I remembered, like in your face, remembered being a bully at one point in my life. And I thought, well, why was I a bully? And it all boils down to hurt people, right? And so I thought, well, what if empowered people empower people? Wonder if the same holds true. And so I just kind of kept checking it, right? Kind of exploring to see if this happens. So not only did I start telling it to my clients, like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell you what I learned. And then I would watch them shift. I started to do it with my family. And I was completely non-judgmental in what was happening in my parents' life. They were divorced. But I started to share, like, so the reason, because again, they were sarcastic, right? And I'd say, so what I just heard was you were manipulating me, trying to get this answer. Is that what's going on? And at the time, my dad was like, I don't even understand what manipulation is. Like, he couldn't even pronounce manipulation, which is funny because I couldn't pronounce being vulnerable. So I completely understood.
Yeah.
But once I started saying, well, what you're really doing, Dad, is I'm hearing anger, but you're not really addressing the problem or who you're angry at. So can we talk about this? He's like, talk about this? What are you talking about? Like, he had no idea that he wasn't saying what he really meant. Right?
Oh, yeah. Because it's coming out.
It's coming
through
out.
A filter, basically.
Yeah.
Through a sarcastic filter or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So he was like, well, I'm talking. Words are coming out of my mouth. What do you mean I'm not saying what I mean? I'm like, no. What you mean to say, I think what you mean to say is this. And yet you're not willing to say that. And he was like, wow, I guess you're right. And he was a non-existent father for most of my life. So to have that transparency and complete vulnerability. I was scared to death to have that conversation with him. He became, in the last 5 years of his life, he became my best friend.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And so when I think of how all this started, me just coaching myself or getting coached myself and have it overflow onto people, really showed me that this is empowered people do empower people. And I want to be one of those people that empower others. And I want them to then go out and empower others. And we create this awesome ripple effect rather than having the ripple effect of hurt people.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Putting that positivity out and letting it carry as far as it can go. I mean, I think that's great. And once people feel, comfortable enough to be vulnerable, which is very difficult. I think we all kind of in some way, with some things don't necessarily want to address, a feeling or, the way that we think about something or, what's really going on. But once we do, and once we just sort of strip it down and get to what's really going on, then you're really like, oh, okay, now I can address that honestly. And then inevitably that affects your relationships in a positive way too. Because when you can, figure out yourself, then you're going to be comfortable, and then you're just going to be comfortable and as happy as you can be around other people. Not to say that everyone's happy all the time, but I think that's really great.
Well, think about as a leader, what if you as a leader were being sarcastic, right?
Right.
Your team is like going to go, I have no clue what they really need, what they really want me to do. Right. Yeah. And, the sitcoms, those are mostly all sarcastic. So we have perfect examples of what it looks like. Mm-hmm. And so we forget that in the real life, we necessarily have to clarify. Right.
And it can be funny, there's times when it's sarcasm it's definitely funny and amusing, but if that's the only way that you're communicating, then it's definitely tough. And if you do it long enough and you're consistent enough with it, then you like you said, you don't even realize that that's how you're communicating, and not and not really saying exactly what you mean or what you need other people to hear. So that makes a lot of sense. And it's good for, that's really good to take into business as well, because, there again, I think a lot of people do, and maybe even things come out through a different filter with business, right? Because it's like we sort of have the way that we deal with our personal life, and then the way that we deal with business. And for entrepreneurs, I think those lines are a little blurred, which is, it's sort of everything is personal and business sort of all kind of comes together, which is good. But still, we all need to make sure that we're communicating with our business partners, our employees, and everybody that we work with in just like a really honest, transparent way. And sometimes that comes out, like for me, sometimes that'll come out not harsh, but just a little bit too much to the point, and I sound a little blunt, or maybe like I'll sound just kind of robotic, like did an AI bot write that, or but I'm just, not that I'm not feeling putting any emotion into it, but I just sometimes you just want to like get something done. And so there's definitely still a balance there. So, even when you are 100% to the point, sometimes there's a way to communicate that with certain people to like, so that they're not going to be in any way offended by it. So that they're going to really, or not even as much about being offended, but there's ways of communicating with everybody where they respond better. So I think we all respond to different styles of communication.
Yeah. And I think that comes full circle though, right? Like as far as our whole setting expectations episode that we did earlier on, and then circling back to the communication is the key. I mean, when it all broken down, when you peel the onions back, the layers of the onion, I mean, it's the communication part. And again, that's what a lot of people have a trouble with, is not being able to communicate correctly. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And when Clint and I talked on this week, he gave me the top 10 list on being a successful leader, which was so amazing, because then we deep dived in together and transformed it into how all of those same rules apply to your personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the main things is, Andrew, as you're talking and you're saying that one thing bluntly, the key is to then ask questions that they understood it.
Right.
And to ask clarifying questions like, okay, is there anything else that you need? Because here's the thing, we say stuff, but we have no idea how it lands on the other person. We have no idea how they took it unless you ask.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Or if they even recognized it too, because if they might miss an email or miss a text that's buried in, 10 other texts or whatever it is, and they might not have even known that you said something that he asked for it. Or sometimes people just don't understand. They don't understand what it is that you're asking them. And then it's like, instead of them asking to explain to explain it, they just sort of ignore it, which is understandable sometimes, especially when you're really busy. It's just like, well, I don't know what that is, so I'm not, I'll just wait until that comes around again, so.
Well, and that can come from fear, right? They're like, oh, well, I don't want him to think I'm dumb, or I don't want him to think I really don't know what I'm doing, so I'm not going to ask what he really meant in that.
That's
so
true,
I'm just going to ignore it.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. That definitely happens. So Shay, when on a daily basis, we all do things to stay productive and, to kind of get into a groove and get things done. What are like the one or two things you do on a daily basis to, or what's the most critical thing you do every day that helps you stay productive?
So I have a calendar. Obviously, being a hairstylist, I have appointments all day long, every day. And with coaching and podcasts and speaking and everything else, nothing's changed. It's still a calendar. So for me, it's really making sure that I have a paper calendar and a digital calendar just to kind of back everything up. So for me, it's important to make sure I'm checking my calendar. And then on a spiritual side, personal side, it's journaling. So I need to vent, if I need to if I need clarity on, well, I have this idea, but I'm not sure if it should work. And I just start writing like all the things that around that idea. And does that work? Well, could it work? Because here's the thing, might not get answers in that journal, but it's about getting it off my mind. So it's not distracting me from any work that I need to do.
Mind mapping, right? I mean, it's right there is perfect example of, hey, you have a thought or whatever it is, put it on paper and then write things around it, right? Even though you might not know what it means at the time, but it was a thought that you were like, boom, let me write this down. Let me write this about this. And the next thing you know, eventually you're like, oh, this all makes sense, right? Because it's almost like putting puzzles together on a daily basis. And I really like that.
Kind of connect the dots.
Mind mapping. I like that. I use brain dumping. So yeah, same thing.
Yeah. It's interesting what you said about getting it out there so that it doesn't distract you from other things. Because I'll do that where I'll just keep things bottled up, and I've got all these ideas floating around my head, and then sometimes I'm able to really compartmentalize and do what I need to do, and not let those other ideas distract me. But then some days it's just like I'm all over the place. If I don't just write a few things down, get organized, and focus on 2 or 3 things that I have to do for that day or for the next few hours. But yeah, that's really, I hadn't really thought about it that way. But even if you just get it out there, at least you feel comfortable that you have it written down. You're not going to forget about it. You can always go back to it, and when you have more time and just kind of go through those ideas. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's something that I've actually talked with psychologists about. There's something that happens in the brain that when and it goes literally down your arm and out your hand and physically write it with a pen and paper, old school, that happens that allows your brain to almost like calm itself.
Okay.
So it can then focus on the task at hand rather than, having this big tornado swirl in your head of all these different ideas and all these different things that you need to quote unquote to do.
Sure. Yeah, it feels like a tornado sometimes, for sure.
Perfect example of what it is on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. I feel hey, bust out pen and paper and just start writing, right? Like,
yeah,
gotta let it go from your brain all the way down to the fingertips. So Shay, as we kind of bring this show to a conclusion, what is the one piece of advice or tip that you would give our listeners to add value to them on their entrepreneurial journey or just in life in general?
Well, goes the tornado in my own head. So the one thing that's keep popping up to me, which is literally what I was just journaling before I hopped on this call, is to really look at those obstacles that you've overcome in your past and use that as a tool to really help you in your business. Because I guarantee you there's someone in your business, whether it's someone that's directly, in your company or it's a customer, but someone has overcome, is going through those same obstacles right now. So think about what you did to overcome that obstacle and tap into the lesson that you learned, which literally goes back to my motto, is because we're all people, we're all in the people business, right? Whether you are in the military or media manufacturing, we all have the people or the buyers.
Right.
So of services or products, right? So I would just really tap into that obstacle that you've overcome and really share those lessons.
And it helps kind of keep you humble and realize that, when you remember the things that you've had to go through, you understand, you have more compassion for other people going through things instead of just thinking, oh man, they just have to get through it. Like why are they going through this, or I don't know how to help them. But really taking a step back and remembering that, we all have some adversity that we go through, some challenges, some bigger than others, definitely. But just having gone through any adversity or any challenge, it gears you up to be compassionate for other people and then also to help them, to empower them just by maybe giving a piece of advice here and there, or just saying, hey, I get it, I understand, what you're going through. So,
well, I believe at the core of every entrepreneur is the drive to help people. And that is why they became an entrepreneur in the first place.
Yeah.
And so it's not about ego. I mean, the ego may or may not come later. So if the ego's there and it's stopping you from things, well, maybe it's time to look back and go, okay, what have I overcome? Who do I need to tap into? Because maybe it's a completely different target market that you hadn't even thought of.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it could definitely help you pivot and, understand if I'm not able to provide value here, or if I'm not really into this, for the right reasons, then I need to adjust and figure out what I really can help people with. And then everything, then you put that good stuff out in the world, and it, like you said, it just spreads. So
yeah,
that's really cool.
I want to thank you so much for your time today, Shay. And before we jump off and actually wrap the episode up with our little everyday, the thing we use every episode, where can our listeners find more of Shā Sparks?
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor, pleasure. And they can find me on my website at shaysparks.com. They can find me on my podcasts on all platforms at The Power of Investing in People podcast. And they can find me on all my social medias, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook at Shā Sparks. That's SHASPARKS.
She said all the socials, guys.
All the socials,
awesome.
yes.
So much easier to say that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Shay, thank you so much for being on the show. And guys, thank everybody who's listening. Thank you to our That Entrepreneurial Life crowd out there. If you like what you heard today, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other major podcast directory. We've got to get something in there like all the socials, but for all the all the podcasts.
Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, you can also find us on Heroes Media Group and on our website, thatentrepreneurlife.com.
Hey guys, know that Shā Sparks, I don't know if she's there yet, but she will be on Heroes Media Group for sure. But we also want to give a special shout out to our family and friends, include all of our listeners, our followers, and subscribers. Thanks for continuing to support what we do as entrepreneurs, guys. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode of That Entrepreneur Life.
Thanks for listening to That Entrepreneur Life podcast. Be sure to visit thatentrepreneurlife.com to join the conversation, access our show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode as we continue to add value. Until next time.